Los Angeles County officials are thinking about, they are kicking around decreasing the amount of money that goes to homelessness in LA County by $219 million. This is after, just last year, increasing sales tax to create $1.1 billion in funding for homelessness. So, what are we doing? Let's get into it. Here we go. Now, LA County has about 10% of the entire homeless population in the United States. 1 out of 10 homeless people are in LA County. It's like 775,000 homeless total in the United States, which is a combination of the pit count from all across the United States. LA County has like 72,000 homeless people. 72,000 homeless people. I talk often about building that homeless industrial complex, and they will come. 72,000 of them are in LA. Is it due to lack of affordable housing? No, it's not. It's not. Is it due to lack of economic opportunity? No, it's not. Go to any homeless encampment, hang out there for a solid 12-hour period, including at least a few hours after dark, and you tell me it's because there's a lack of affordable housing. You won't last more than a couple hours. Be right in the middle of the homeless encampment, right in the middle of everything. Just bring a chair, hang out, sit down, sit there for 4 or 5 hours, and you tell me it's about affordable housing. Just absolute nonsense. So we've got some budget cuts happening, and keep in mind, this is all happening right before we do a big ramp up in Los Angeles for the 2028 Olympics. We've got the Olympics coming to town. This is going to be great for Los Angeles. Facing a loss of state and federal funding and increased costs, LA County considering cutting homeless services and programs by more than 25%, $219 million in the budget next year. If approved, spending plan presented by Board of Supervisors, $219 million from homeless services and programs, slashing county street outreach efforts in half and closing most of the sites for the Pathway Home Encampment Clearing Program. Any of these things are not good news for California residents. But you've got some of these big budget deficits, and in the past, there's been so much money sloshing around. Just slosh it. Let's just put it on this. And at least Los Angeles County has homelessness decreasing, if ever so slightly. It's like 4% decrease. But hey, you keep doing 4 on top of 4 on top of 4, and you get that on any given Sunday. 1 inch becomes 2 inches, becomes half a foot, becomes a mile, right? Yeah, that crazy speech that Al Pacino did. So we got $219 million. Several supervisors pushed back on aspects of the spending plan and urged county staff to find ways to avoid some of the proposed cuts because homelessness is out of control in California, specifically Los Angeles, and any kind of cut is not viewed upon by the constituents as positive. I'm not particularly happy with everything that I'm seeing. That is an understatement, right? Supervisor Hilda Solis said, I've heard from my providers that their people are disappointed. Your job's going to get cut. Are you? How you feeling about that? I'm deeply disappointed, right? So this is a recent draft in a presentation to supervisors. Officials said the deep cuts were necessary because of the rising costs of operating existing shelter beds and the loss of tens of millions in temporary state and federal funding. Now, let's get down to what's driving the deficit. Shelter bed cost increases. The rates LA County pays shelter bed operators went up last year. It will now pay 46% more, an increase of $86 million to maintain the same 6,000 shelter beds. 46% more. What is costing 46% more? You know what I mean? It's like these numbers come down and you're like, okay, what for? Mattresses, did those go up dramatically? Did labor go up just astronomically? No. Did rent go up astronomically? No. So what are you talking about? Just costs in general? Or is this something that was worked out? Hey, we're going to pay you this on this. And now it's 46% more. We got funds expiring, but that is one of the major factors here. Everything's costing more. Well, why is that? What's the cause of that? Funds expiring, several temporary funding sources, 185 million, 38 million, 80 million. Okay. So they cobbled together a bunch of funds in the past. Now they don't have them. Consumer spending. Sales tax from Measure A is projected to decrease by 14.5 million in the next fiscal year. Now, Measure A, we'll look at that in a second. Measure A was a 0.25 point increase in sales tax, and it was supposed to bring in $1.1 billion. So Los Angeles residents, you guys are committed to throwing money at the homeless industrial complex, because what are you going to do? The alternative is to just hands off. Let's just go ahead and, let's just unleash 72,000 homeless people and just let them do their own thing and take back all that money, take back all that shelter, and we'll just see what happens. Well, you know what would happen? And I don't want to see that social experiment, because lives would be lost in the just absolute chaos of kicking 72,000 people to the curb. Be a terrible social experiment. But what would happen is a lot of these drug addicts, they'd run off to a nearby city that does the same thing. They'd run off to, San Fran used to do it. Would they go to San Diego? San Diego's a little bit more hardcore and they're homeless. Are they going to go to San Jose? Are they going to go to, No. Because LA has all the funding, the big, huge city, right? Second largest city in the United States. And they've got they just $1 billion on homeless industrial complex. We spend that between January, February, March, any given year. Just, that's peanuts. So we got consumer spending, it's down. Carryover funds, there are fewer one-time funds available from previous budget years that can be rolled into the coming budget. Measure A looms large. Let's take a look at Measure A. This was Measure A here. Campaign to raise LA County sales tax for homelessness efforts claims victory. So we just got through this. LA just got through this. This article was last updated on the 2nd of December 24. Raising LA County sales tax to fund homeless efforts. 57% said yes, 42% no. Because, it's one of these little tiny incremental things, but then you get that whole quarter by quarter. Oh, now we got a half point. Oh, now we got another half, 3/4. Oh, now we got a full point pop on our sales tax, whatever it is that you're taxing. It's that slow creep, right? It's just ongoing, creep in, creep in, creep in. So the yes on Measure A claimed victory Wednesday afternoon with nearly 56% of the vote. The initiative will turn a current quarter-cent sales tax in LA County into a half-cent tax. They're bumping it by a quarter, raising an estimated $1.1 billion per year for homeless services and affordable housing development. So they've already literally got billions and billions and billions of dollars that are just being thrown at this problem. And what we're seeing is LA is no different than Portland, but LA is actually having a decrease. Small, I'll bet it's a tiny, tiny decrease. And if they actually spend less money on their homelessness, I know it's counterintuitive, but if you spend less money, if people are aware there are less funds, there are less beds out there, or there are less, everything, they tend to migrate where they can get the best deal, right? We have seen this time and time again. Seattle, 70% of our homeless doesn't originate from within Seattle. Vast majority are not, they're coming in from outside of Washington State, but they come to Seattle because the homeless perks are absolutely dynamite. So our main article goes on to say, this is not what voters intended when they doubled the tax on themselves to address the homelessness crisis. Dozens of homeless service employees lined up to echo that message. and demanding officials restore the full budget. Well, they need to get their homeless industrial complex grift money, right? That's what so much of this is about. How we're going to get paid, even though homelessness has historically just been going up, and even though we've already created a system where we built it and they came, and Los Angeles literally has just under 10% of all the homelessness for the entire United States of America. Do you think the current plan is working? No. So I bet you, you do this 219 million, you take away a bunch of services, a bunch of stuff, you keep doing that, and you will literally reduce your homelessness. It's absolutely backwards. But if you think about it, it's got to do with that whole theory of if you build it, they will come. If you don't, you're not going to have any. And, when you spend billions and billions of dollars and you don't actually have an exit strategy for when homelessness is done, you don't have anybody that's homeless anymore. When do we see that? When do we ever see that from the homeless industrial complex? We do not. We do not. Because that would be self-ending to their cycle of basically grift, of living off the system. I have to justify my job by doing some metrics with the homeless. We're going to get paid a crap ton by the county, by the state, by the federal government, whomever it might be, right? We're going to get paid a crap ton, and we got to make it look like we're doing just enough to keep our jobs. Oh, the work that we're doing here is so important. And there is some important work. Not everybody is a whacked out drug addict, but so many of them are. Go to Skid Row and you tell me, those people, those vast majority of those folks either need to be in jail, prison, or a mental ward because they are absolutely psycho. Here's a quote I want you to focus on. What we can't do is eliminate the programs that prevent homelessness and expect the crisis to improve. I don't know. You've tried just about everything else. Let's give that a whirl. You know what I mean? Why not? Let's just, hey, sorry folks, but we're cutting ties here. We are no longer providing all of this stuff. We are providing the absolute bare bones, and you're going to have to live with it because we're not getting anything back from you as far as a commitment goes. This is all we can commit to you. Absolute bare bones. We're going to spend $100 million a year, right? Just cut it down to absolutely nothing. And what do you think happens? Yeah, it might be a little rough at the beginning, right? But those folks that are committed to doing drugs, they're going to go find an environment where it's more conducive. Or what if you do what Portland's talking about doing and what San Francisco is doing in the real time? They are going to be arresting folks that are in public doing drugs and that are out of control. They're whacked out of their minds. They're going to be arresting those folks and taking them to a center where those people get a warm handoff to treatment or to jail. One of those things. That's what they've come up with in San Francisco as kind of next step. All right, you want to be a drug addict here, that's fine, but you can't do it out in public. And we're going to arrest you and we're going to allow you to sober up. And then we're going to highly encourage you to go into treatment. And here's your treatment dude right here. They're in a big complex and they've been arrested. They're going to have to go into this kind of environment. So every subsidy cut, every outreach program lost, every navigation team dismantled, each one represents a person who will fall through the cracks. I disagree. I think you're going to have some people, but not all people fall through the cracks. And I think you're going to have enough people that just basically move on. They just move on. It's a wild, wild concept, and it would take a long time for that to happen. But that's literally what you've got going. You've got the haves and the have-nots, right? You got the states that have homelessness and wildly encourage it. And then you've got the have-nots, which are no-go, Republican states typically. They address it. They allow their police officers to either make an arrest, make a recommendation for treatment somewhere, or get them into a shelter, whatever it is they want. But they can't live on the streets. That's the big no-go. And in states where they do that, oftentimes their numbers are a fraction of what we're talking about in a Los Angeles, in a Seattle, in a Portland, that basically just kowtows to the homeless industrial complex. So here's an example of a city that's going in the wrong direction. Seattle mayor, we got a new mayor, name's Katie Wilson. She is a socialist. She postpones the Ballard encampment sweep, signals new strategy. She wants to take some time, and she delayed an encampment sweep in Ballard Wednesday, pledging to find alternatives to displacing homeless people. And in the meantime, this is how they are living. Let's just take a quick look, okay?
At Northwest 41st Street and 𝗪𝗥𝗘𝗠𝗜𝗨 Trail, this homeless encampment is small, but for some,
it's not civilized.
It's a big problem
for us to allow other human beings to live like that.
About 10 to 15 people live here.
It's just like a spot that's away from everything.
Danielle is one of them. She's been homeless for 10 years, moving from site to site after previous sweeps from other encampments.
They'll just grab whatever and start throwing it away.
Today, the city planned to clear this encampment too. It's been cleared multiple times before. This homeless encampment.
Look at this. So I've walked many of these streets. Look at what you've got going on. This is hostile architecture here. These are just literally enormous pieces of concrete that are taking up what used to be a vacated portion of a roadway. And you've got some of that same stuff going on here, but they've got enough people together to move these enormous concrete traffic barriers, I guess you would call them, or, guidance, whatever they are. They've got enough people who have moved them in this area that they're putting tents down. So those are the lengths to which the homeless are going to continue to provide themselves a place where they can do drugs and party and live their lifestyle. And this is Ballard, Washington. It's so sad that that's happened.
It used to be larger. A few years ago, the city installed these concrete blocks along the entire road here to discourage camping. Now, new Mayor Katie Wilson stopped by to visit and cancel the sweep after homeless advocate Bruce Drager reached out through the mayor's online contact form.
I would have never in a million years thought that she would come out here.
Drager argues homeless sweeps rarely work.
Most of these individuals have been swept probably once a month over the last couple of years.
City data shows Seattle's homelessness population has increased about 26% from 2022 to 2024 and is an issue Mayor Wilson ran on during her campaign. She declined to answer questions about her decision, but in a statement said, I decided to extend the deadline for this site to allow more time to assess whether we can improve outcomes for people living there, for their neighbors, and for local businesses.
That's wonderful. That would be an answered prayer.
Some neighbors and nearby workers say they think that's a mistake, often citing concerns like safety, drug use, and cleanliness. But Drager says it signals possible change with the new mayor.
I'm very optimistic, and you're talking to a guy that's very rarely been optimistic about government.
Well, you're optimistic because what you're hearing is that there will be no more homeless encampment sweeps for now in Seattle. And what do you think that does? What happened during the pandemic? What happened with the CDC when the CDC said, hey, don't sweep any of those encampments? Homeless encampments exploded, just absolutely went crazy because people knew they weren't getting swept. And they could set up couches. We could set up a basketball court. We can set up a swimming pool. Remember when we talked about swimming pool being in a homeless encampment? Above grade swimming pool? Hot tubs? I mean, remember when we talked about in Ballard, we talked about the guy who on the second story of his truck, of his motorhome, he had like a recording studio up there, and he was doing his band thing and playing music at all, hours of the night. Also, the lawnmower guy was in Ballard. You got just a bunch of Looney Tunes in Seattle, right? Just absolute Looney Tune people. And just allowing them to stay in their homeless encampment area, that ain't going to do it. It's not going to do it. So California, Los Angeles County, you guys are in kind of, budget territory cuts, and that absolutely sucks. But I think we're going to see a lot more cuts to the homelessness crisis as all the repercussions from post-pandemic start to filter in, meaning lack of revenue from so many different areas of not only life, but business and all that good stuff. All right. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. Love to have you subscribe. Hit that notification bell. I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.